Let's continue with Swift Basics. In this part, we deal with mathematical expressions and type aliases. So let's start with mathematical expressions. When you want to add numbers, you use the plus sign. When you want to subtract, you use the minus sign. When you want to multiply, you use the asterisk. And when you want to divide, you use the forward slash. And when you want to find the remainder, you use the modulo sign or the percentage sign. Let's take some examples. In this statement, I'm defining a constant called sum, and I'm adding two numbers, an integer value and a double value. It's going to get the answer of 11.42, and since that's a double, it's then going to infer the type of sum to be double and put in the answer of 11.42. Let's take another example. If I want to do a subtraction or find the difference between two numbers, I'm now defining a constant whose name is difference. I'm taking an integer 7 minus a double 4.8. The answer is going to be 2.2, which is a double, and it's then going to take 2.2 and put it into this constant called difference, and it's going to infer that the type is double. Let's do multiplication. I've now defined a variable here called product, and I've taken minus 7.34 multiplied it by 8.1. Both of them are double, so the result is going to be a double. It gets the answer of minus 59.45399, and put that answer into this variable called product. Let's try some division. Here I'm defining a constant called quotient, and I'm explicitly stating its type to be a double. It's going to take 22, divide by 7, and get the answer 3.14, and put that into this variable called quotient. Let's look at this statement. I'm defining a constant called remainder. Then I'm taking 10, dividing it by 3, and finding out what the remainder is. This is called the modular operator, or the percentage symbol. So 10 divided by 3 is 3, and the remainder is 1. So that's what goes into this constant called remainder. Now sometimes, in fact in most cases, you won't have simple arithmetic like this. You will have more complicated arithmetic with lots of variables and lots of values and lots of operations that need to be evaluated by the compiler. So in mathematical, if we have a long mathematical expression, we need to follow the rules of precedence. Now in mathematics, if you have a long expression, the computer is going to first evaluate the brackets of the expression. Now in Swift, we only use one type of bracket, which are these round brackets, and you could use as many of these brackets as you want to, but for every open bracket you need to have a closed bracket. So it will evaluate the brackets first. Then if there's any multiplication or division in the expression, it will then evaluate that second. And lastly, if there's any addition and subtraction in the expression, it will evaluate that last. So let's look at an example. I have a big expression here, okay, and I want the computer to evaluate this expression and then put the final answer into this constant called answer. Let's have a look at how it will evaluate, or what process it would use, or what would it do first and what would it do second and third, or what order of precedence will it follow to evaluate this expression. The first thing it will do, you'll see there's a number of brackets here. There's some inner brackets, and there's also some outer brackets here. So what would happen here? It will first evaluate the inner brackets. It would do this first. Do this first as well. Evaluate the inner brackets. And then it would evaluate any multiplication or division. So then it would do the multiplication and the division, and the last thing, if there was any addition or subtraction, it would do that. So it follows the order of precedence when evaluating long expressions. Now, how about an expression that has two different types? In this example, we see that the numerator is of type integer and the denominator is of type double. So how is it going to evaluate this, and what will be the resultant? Will the resultant be a double or an integer? Now in this example here, what happens here is, since double 5.1 is a double, or one of the numbers is a double, the other number, which is an integer, gets promoted to a double. So the computer is going to evaluate it like this. It's going to say 48.0, which is a double. It's an integer promoted to a double, 48.0 divided by 5.1. And it's then going to get the answer and place it into this constant called another division, which is 9.41. That's what we call the integer gets promoted to a double. Now let's look at another concept in Swift called type aliases. Now so far we've learned, we worked with 4 types. We worked with integer, we worked with double, we worked with string, and in fact we worked with 5 types: integer, double, string, character, and boolean. Now if you do not like the word integer, it doesn't make any sense to you, you could use an alias for it. You can use another name for it, equivalent name for it. So what I'm doing here is I'm defining an alias for int. We call this a type alias. So we use the keyword type alias. So instead of using the word int, I could use the word whole number in place of int. So here in the second line, I'm defining a variable called num1, which is a variable, var, of type whole number, but indirectly it's an int because I've said that whole number equals to int. So I'm defining, in actual fact, I'm defining a variable called num1 of type int, value to be 10. Let's take another example. We have a data type called double. If I do not want to use the word double, I would like to make my own name for double, or an alias, a second name. I'm calling this type fraction. So I could replace, wherever I have the word double, I could replace it with the word fraction. So here I'm defining another variable called num2 of type fraction, but indirectly it is of type double. Thank you for watching, and when we get back we'll finish up Swift Basics.